G'day punters, here we are for a bit of Punting Melbourne style. I'm joined by the punters punter, Dan Kelly.
You pots?
Yeah.
Good to see you.
You too. And here we are, we're at the Emerald. We've had a slight change of venue. Such a beautiful day that the spot we normally go to is well occupied today,
Yeah,
DK.
it would be. Mexico towns, we had 27 degrees and a beautiful day for lunch outside, so some other people have taken blocking our pitch, but that's okay.
Good on them.
Yeah, I would too. Beautiful day to have lunch outside.
And, you know, we've been banished to what is a beautiful, you know, period features room, so we can't complain.
We're the front dining room.
We're going all right.
Plenty of racing lunches have been held in here. I think
Not bad.
Your heads have been in here, so yeah.
So, DK, before we kick off, I just wanted to have a bit of a quick spiel that we do this show because we love racing and we want other people to see how much we enjoy it and hopefully look into it themselves and get the same enjoyment out of it.
Absolutely.
And trying to solve the puzzle. And
it's a wonderful sport, and the gambling puzzle, as you said, it's intriguing and challenging, and it's enjoyable. And
it can be the most torturous game there is, but it's better than all the rest.
That's
right.
What I think. Is that what Lico say? It's better than doing Sudoku or something like that? Something like that. So anyway.
So that's what we do the show, and I know that's why you come along. And you know, I really appreciate that, and I know a lot of the punters write to me about how much they appreciate your efforts and coming and doing the show with me.
It's a pleasure, mate, and it suits both ways. I mean, we sort of probably doing what we do. We take a bit out of the industry, I think. You know, we make our livelihoods out of it. So it gets me out of the dungeon and come and see you and have lunch and things. But also, I feel we give a bit back. You know, we try and do a bit of education.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's probably not a lot out there. You know, so
I mean that. You know, trying to give the punters a bit of insight into the nuances is, you know, something that I find really rewarding and I enjoy. And the conversations that we tend to have after this, all sorts of good things come out of it. I reckon it would have been back in August, or, you know, I got no idea when it was. It was back quite a while ago. You just mentioned to me after it had its first start when it was beaten but ran on really well. It might have been Maui or something, or I'm not quite sure. We said the midges at San Remo Tide's a nice horse pots.
Oh, San Remo Tide, yeah.
And you know, that just went in the back of the mind somewhere, and then there it was. I saw it resuming last week, and second up last week after had the inside draw at Seymour and got a good result out of it. So you know, it's always worthwhile getting together with good racing people and chatting about the sort of things we talk about.
Yeah, no, absolutely, mate. As I concur with that, I enjoy it, and hopefully we can have another good year of doing the show and helping the punters out.
Definitely. So, like the reason I'm mentioning that is that, you know, fairly regularly, you know, some of our viewers write in, you know, with all sorts of ideas and things and thanking us for doing it, and I appreciate every one of those. It makes it more rewarding that they do that. And one of those people is Brian. Brian writes in every week. He's an absolute beauty, Brian. He first contacted me a few years back, interested in the service, and he asked a lot of terrific questions, which I knew straight away he was a good racing person. And so we had quite a bit of to and fro, and I thought he'd come back and sign up for a week or whatever, but he signed up for a whole year. Right? And it worked out well.
He had the long haul, that's what you want.
He had a good year. He writes an email to me every week with a bit of a summary of the week's action, and there's always great insight in it. And I enjoy reading his emails every week. It's I've saved quite a few. So last week, DK, we got a package from Brian.
Did we?
We did, yeah.
Brian.
So I've already started on mine, but there's one for you as well.
Something.
So
what do we get,
there you go, mate. So far, all I've done is made it from the early settlers to Geelong Grammar. But I'm only early, right? I reckon there's going to be some good racing stories in there somewhere. So that's from Brian to you, mate.
Is it, mate?
Oh, sorry, there we go.
Found like a outrageous Hore-Lacy story.
Hore-Lacy.
There it is.
Written by Rick himself. So such an interesting character, Rick.
I'll have to thank Brian for that. Absolutely. I mean, he's he's got a lot of stories.
I mean, just a rich, colourful racing character over a long period of time.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to reading the rest of that book, Brian. So thanks so much for your thoughts, mate. It was very kind of you to do that.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah. I remember back when I was just starting on the videos, I reckon maybe just a while ago, I was working at the track, and when I was buying them on VHS, had a good edge, and not many people were getting them. I found one of his, and there it held up all the way up the straight or whatnot. There it was at Bendigo Cup Day or something in the restricted race, might have been a main, and I bet like 10 to 1. You know, so I couldn't help myself. I had to have a good bet on it, you know. And after he settled up, he came to the ring and saw it was like $5. Who back my horse? Who back my horse? You know, back and leave. And home it went, God bless it. So,
do you remember its name?
Oh, that was a long time ago now. A lot of these under the bridge there.
Yeah, well, what you mean, you know, it's worth. You've only ever had from my understanding anyway, a fairly small stable, but it's worth remembering that horses like Sedative and Duke's Choice come out of that
Absolutely,
stable.
absolutely, yeah.
That had a big impact on the industry.
Yeah, I'll never forget. I was at Caulfield the day that Testarossa and Reduced Choice went head to head up the straight, and it was amazing. It was a joint shook, you know. It was everyone was raw. It was amazing.
I can clearly remember Reduced Choice being scratched race morning.
That's it.
Yeah. Blowing up absolutely deluxe.
So anyway,
look forward to reading some of the earlier stuff that I might not know about Rick. And
it's good he's got that because I think he's got some dementia issues that he's going in the eye. So it's great that he's got it all. Yeah, got that all down on paper. Yeah, it's terrific. Good
stuff. So anyway, I thought we might start off DK the show today talking a bit about the environment at the moment we're being doing. So it's been really just for by a lot of it driven, I suppose, from my point of view anyway, by Jake's Business of Betting podcast. And we've had guest after guest coming on there talking about how the environment's changed and some of the difficulties that are driven by the game becoming more and more computerised. Now, I'm talking about gambling in general, not just racing. And those big teams and crunching data and everything else. There's a part of me that sort of wants to say the game's always been difficult. There's always been smart operators. It's never been easy to win. It's always been very easy to lose. If you are ill-disciplined, if you don't have a method, if you don't work hard at it, it's always been easy to lose. Now, it's changed. It's definitely different.
As it does. I mean, the game evolves. You know, it's different to what it was 10 years ago when Mark Reed started with Mark Reed. He was one of the first internet bookies. You know, there's only a couple, of course, bookies. And 10 years before that, it was working at the track and the tracksuit gang, and it was all on-course bookies where all the action was. And then 10 years before that, it was 100%. It was huge in the booking. There's 50, 60 bookies at the track.
Now, even since we've been doing this show, DK, we've talked a number of times about how we're doing our own individual betting, and that's changed constantly. Yeah. It's never, because we have to constantly react to the behaviour of the corporates. It's changing all the time. They're doing everything they can to increase the margins and to try and be more targeted towards the recreational punters. So they're trying to keep a higher percentage in their markets, but offer things like the odds boosts and whatever else they want to call them to the players they select, their softer targets.
I caught up with for lunch in town my old boss, Hore-Lacy, he's now, I think he's titled, he's general manager of risk and trading at Sportsbet. So he's right up the top, and it was just bloody amazing. I said how things have changed and things, but like you said, it's all from when we started back when we worked together at Mark Reed's 10 years ago to now. And he'd just been to America because Paddy Power first in the market there with one of their Van Jewels or one of the big companies there that's opening up, and it's all changing. It's just changing, ever changing, and
it's not going to stop changing.
No, that's right.
There's almost a war going on. You've got the large computer teams. They've got a lot of resources. So any ideas they have, they've got a computer program or a team of them there to make those changes and test them and then so that they're doing, and that's driving their behaviour, and then the corporates are reacting to that. So there's this constant tug of war between, and we're sort of caught in the middle, and then occasionally they'll turn their attention to us and try and slow people like us down a little bit. And
so the edge the corporates have too is that they have all that data on all those bets that have been placed by accounts connected to those teams.
Yeah, so they'd reverse engineer that.
That's very useful information.
Absolutely.
And put it to their own pricing methods and things like that if they were so inclined. So
like with you or me, DK, if we really like one, we don't have to have the same bet with every corporate, right? Because let's just say one of the really big teams, if they back every horse with every corporate to win the amount that the minimum bet limits accept, that might not be their total bet. Now, they might have to put some of it on the tab, some on the Betfair to try and get to where they actually wanted to go to. For us, that would rarely happen. I mean, to do that, you'd be wanting to back one to win probably 50, I suppose.
It'd be nice to bet that big pots, but...
So, I mean, I rarely would ever... I mean, so, we can sort of... Back at the sort of result we're after, with, sometimes just one bookmaker, sometimes up to 5 or 6, or, it can get beyond that, you know what I mean? But like, you can sort of pick and choose. So we're not... at the maximum the environment's allowing. So that makes us harder to profile than the big teams, because when they're having the maximum, like sports better know that they've had their maximum. So that's and they know it's across the board. They can see that.
Yeah, that's
Whereas
right.
like I might have 10 bets in a day, but 2 of them were with the tab, 2 of them with sports bet.
I like that part. That's part of it. They've got no idea really what I'm doing. They say, gee, he can't back a winner, but somewhere else, the last 8 bets of the 10 might be winners or something. Yeah. But just by chance in that place, you're right. It makes it difficult to profile them for it.
And I deliberately do things to make that harder. Sometimes I'll have the whole bet in one place. Sometimes I'll spread it out.
I'm the same.
I'm always just.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a paranoia,
but it's getting hard with that market compressing. It used to be sort of 10 you could sort of bet with, now it's sort of getting to 6 and 7, and soon it'll be probably 4 or 5, so it'll be a bit harder, but cross that bridge when we come to it.
Well, it'll change, and competition will be a factor, DK. There are a lot of people from bookmaking type backgrounds that look at the current environment that would be prepared to undercut the corporates, particularly when they're trying to operate at upwards of 20% in their percentage in their markets. And so they'll filter through at different points, and new corporates will bob up. And just as an example, James Philgate's been putting some stuff up through Best Bookies. It's extremely competitive, undercutting them. In the last 20 minutes of betting, it's been competitive with Betfair. So, there is competition out there, and it'll come and go in different things, but the general environment's still going to be driven by those last corporates, and we're going to have to constantly react to it. So I would just say, there's a big responsibility on the racing authority, so in our case Racing Victoria, but the other ones around the country, to make sure that these environments are operating fairly and that there's no predatory behaviour being allowed by these large corporates. Because some of them have got management types like Coles and Woolworths, where the modus operandi is to crush your competitors and then try and rip the arse out of your customers by pulling the prices up. And there's no doubt there's a drive in that direction from the corporates. But I think they'll fail. I think competition will make that impossible for them. They already struggle with the competition with the totes and Betfair lady betting. It drives their prices down to an acceptable level. But
that happens very late.
In the early betting is almost, I would say, the Racing Victoria. What's the point of the early betting at the moment? You know what I mean? It's up to basically 30% across the board, even in small fields.
And there's no minimum bet laws for those prices anyway.
No MBLs. So
it's a fishing expedition, really, isn't it?
It is. And sometimes it can be quite cynical. So we'll talk about an example about that on Friday. The Tab have been running a promotion. They did it over spring. They brought it back for the match.
The Friday hour of power, no, it was longer than that.
It was from 12 o'clock till 7.
Sports betting back in the day started with an hour of power, where we just used to get 100%. But now they did it again. They were doing it for 7 hours as well.
So from midday until 7 p.m.
Yep.
And that to me looked like an attempt to stimulate betting, and I expect that it would have worked, because a lot of the other corporates matched them, come down to sort of something in the teens, and there would have been some fairly active betting on Friday afternoon, which would have given them some good signals.
And a lot of guys who've done form betting. There's as we know, the computer models wouldn't be sharpened up till scratchings on Saturday morning conditions, so to get some good intel again off the form guys to what they think,
Well, I was prepared to take some Friday positions at those percentages and start to try and build something, and my customers would have done the same. But so on Friday, it started at 12 o'clock.
Was this the first time they've done it this year, or they've done it?
They did it Magic Millions week, so it was the second week. And I was sitting beside someone that works with me and watched them submit a bet that was at $3.70, immediately rejected with the price adjusted to $2.90. So no portion of the bet accepted, price changed $2.90. And I spoke to 3 other punters who had a similar experience on different horses.
I saw Mark Lamont posted on Twitter. Something said, what the hell's going on here, trying to back a 4-to-1 chance, or in Sydney, Nick Anita or something like that. Same thing. Bet rejected and turned off, which he said, for him to, what can happen to your camp as well.
So by 12:04, the whole 110 thing was over. They'd gone back to over 130 on every race, and you could see there was a runner in every race where they'd obviously had a bet or whatever, had someone attempt to have a bet or whatever had happened, and they turned all those prices off. The funny part was, the one I'm talking about, the bet was on Ocean X at $3.70. It's got around $6 on Saturday, so they didn't want to lay it at $3.70 on Friday, and then they're having to load at $6 on Saturday.
What's happened? What's happened there?
I got no idea. To me, they're trying to get the information they're almost for free or for nothing, and it's cynical. And I think that if they think punters will fall for that more than once, they're kidding. There's no way.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward. I couldn't see that punters copying that again next Friday, whenever it is.
There's no one, me or anyone I know, will be submitting a bet there until we know that those prices are legitimate and you're going to be able to have a bet. So, and to me, they embarrass themselves. So if they continue that, I don't think that will be good for the Tab's reputation.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, I suppose it's another thing where there's probably no form done, and they're coming off of prices and got no backups to them, and all the maths guys are now running the prices, and form guys are out the door. You know?
Yeah, it's hard to know. I mean, like really, to the people that work in those environments, perhaps you don't have a long history in racing, but DK and I will be happy to tell you that how we grew up and how we learned was walking on the race courses, and you know the horses that you're interested in backing.
Yep,
so you'd say it's race 3, you might be interested in backing the favourite and the third favourite. So you walk down, there used to be like 50 plus bookmakers, so you walk down one side of the ring, come back around the other side, looking at, comparing the prices, and a lot of them would be, let's say the favourite's 11 to 4, a lot of them be 11 to 4, there'd be the odd one that's 3 to 1, you know, there might even be 13 to 4 there or something like that, or maybe someone might push to 7 to 2 or whatever, and you'd be able to look at the top 3 or 4 of the market, quickly add the percentages up, and you knew really quickly that that the percentage was competitive, and that's driven by competition. And the modern day version of that is dynamic odds, and dynamic odds actually calculate those percentages for you.
Very good, very helpful. It's at the bottom of the race field.
Yeah. And I would just think you're going to have a lot of trouble getting any serious turnover at those type of percentages that are currently in play. In that situation, Wednesday, Thursday,
with the
Friday.
point of consumption tax and all this sort of thing, though, they're trying to protect that margin for as long as they can, don't they? I mean, I know it's, aren't they? Well, they're trying to claw back money from their customers, really, aren't they?
Yeah.
They don't have to fork it out of their own.
I understand, whether it's the management trying to increase margins, whether they've decided that the answer is not to increase turnover, because I thought that the 110% was an attempt to stimulate betting to increase turnover and maintain their margins. Because they know on Saturday they'll eventually get down to 110%. That's what happens.
Happens every race. That's what happens. That's how the betting works.
But if they just want to increase margins, I think they'll struggle to get there. I mean, that example just proves it. I mean, there they are, desperate to lay the horse in the last minute of betting at $6 out. It wins.
Makes no sense.
It's a very it's a baffling environment at the moment, but there is still opportunities for us there, punters. And the main point I want to make is that yes, it is difficult with these Pac-Men out there, these big, well-organised computer teams, but you can beat them if you've got the right process, the right discipline, the right work ethic.
Well, Ocean X is a prime example of that, what you're talking about there, where they're, for whatever reason, the map or whatever, the computer models didn't like it, or marked at $7 or whatever they did, and they got it, they got it wrong, and the punters who liked it got it right.
Yeah, I'm curious to wonder how much. Look, so Nick Price goes on radio on Saturday morning and pours cold water all over it.
And he did it before the pre-race.
So I just wonder how it sort of flows into the market, I guess.
Yeah, I think she's top class.
Yeah,
she's got that. She got beat at Yarra that day. That was good.
Okay, what you and I know, right? On Saturday, Made Me Shiver started $4.
Yeah.
Ocean X started $6.
Yeah.
What are the chances?
It's just complete map. They're saying what happened at Yarra Glen's going to happen again. Maybe she was going to be on the front, and Ocean X is going to be back needing luck. That's what I was saying. That's what they're telling me, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, there's just Ocean X is a 3 lengths plus better horse, and there's just no way.
It was sickening at Yarra Glen. It was sickening. I only get one crack at those sort of things.
Yeah.
$4 in a maiden, it is a possible group horse. And it's good beat. So next start is what, $1.60, wins by 7. It's no good to me,
If the punters that want to know that, they go and have a look at her at Moonee Valley. She won by head, but she from the point that the track starts to turn until she straightened up when there's not much of the race left at Moonee Valley, she did not make any ground at all because she did not get around that turn. She was always going to be massively better suited at front.
That's a big point I've spoken about on the show before. The tighter tracks, the tighter circumferences, and then getting those horses onto the bigger, flatter surface where they can balance out. How strong was she the other day?
Yeah.
You see with wheel horses all the time.
Yeah.
Teach them, educates them on the tighter tracks, gets them to balance up on a big track where they can flatten out and play to their strengths.
Yeah.
Archie Alexander, similar. So that's why we like a strong horse. But yeah, I was just watching her flatten out the other day. It was chalk and cheese here to Moonee Valley, wasn't it?
And I'm just thinking, I was willing to back this horse at 370 on Friday.
And that's why I've been talking to you about, just the other day about how the SP with the computer team so strong now and so dominant in the market and so successful, the SP is a really significant piece of information and a very accurate piece of information. So you could say, what she was supposed to win that race at Moonee Valley by the SP by a couple of lengths. Yeah. So she fell in, but I think you respect the SP. The SP is telling you the truth.
That's what I thought the computer teams would do. That's why I thought she'd trade in the sort of 350 to 380 range. Is what I was thinking.
But the map, and
they just and then cold water from the trainer. And they just sort of took away demand for her.
Yeah.
So there was no demand. So they had to increase the price.
How do you take 350 when the trainer says, "Oh, it's got this negative, that negative, and this negative"?
Well, I didn't.
You can't watch her videos. Go and watch her first start. Go and watch Yarra Glen. Go and watch Geelong, and she just Jack Hill swinging off her. She won by 7 lengths.
All I could think about was Geelong. I thought, this is Geelong again. She's going to do the same thing. She's so powerful. If that was a case where the bet for odds didn't bother me one iota, and the trainer's words went in one ear and out the other. Anyway, that'll do us for part one, punters. We'll be back in a moment with a bit more.